Stop being too friendly. Stop handing your peace to every passerby. Kindness is golden, yes, but not for sale. Stand firm in your worth. Let your smile have purpose, not desperation. The world will test your softness. Don't let it tear you thin. Be gentle, but never invisible. True kindness doesn't require constant approval. It stands tall on its own, unshaken by the applause or silence of others. Too often we confuse kindness with pleasing. We learn early that to be good, we must be liked. To be kind, we must be agreeable. Yet genuine kindness does not seek validation. It doesn't beg for attention or gratitude. It is an act of quiet strength, a reflection of inner peace rather than outward acceptance. When kindness comes from a place of needing approval, it loses its purity. It becomes performance instead of compassion, transaction instead of grace. The kind words we offer turn into bait for recognition, and the help we extend becomes a silent plea for belonging. But when kindness is true, when it springs from self-respect and empathy, it needs no witness. It does not shrink in the shadows or shine only under praise. The world often rewards loudness, ambition, and dominance. In that noise, kindness can seem like weakness. People may tell you that you're too nice, as if gentleness is a flaw. But true kindness is not naive. It sees clearly. It recognizes manipulation, yet chooses not to mimic it. It can say no without guilt, walk away without hatred, and love without losing itself. Approval-seeking kindness, on the other hand, bends too easily. It gives until it is empty and wonders why no one fills it back up. To live kindly without craving approval requires courage. It means accepting that not everyone will understand your intentions. Some will misinterpret your silence as arrogance, your boundaries as rudeness, your self-care as selfishness. But you must remember that their misunderstanding does not define your heart. True kindness does not need to prove itself. It exists beyond judgment. It breathes even when unseen. Think of a tree that offers shade. It doesn't ask who rests beneath it or demand thanks when people leave. It stands rooted, giving because giving is its nature. That is the essence of real kindness. It is generous without needing a stage, compassionate without demanding an audience. The moment you stop performing kindness for approval, it becomes something sacred. It starts to heal rather than deplete you. When your kindness depends on approval, it becomes fragile. Every rejection feels personal. Every unreturned smile stings. You begin to mold yourself into what others find pleasing, and in doing so, you chip away at your authenticity. But when you act out of inner conviction, kindness becomes effortless. It flows naturally, not because you must, but because it aligns with who you are. True kindness coexists with boundaries. It knows when to step back, when to protect energy, and when silence speaks louder than service. It does not chase acceptance, it attracts respect. And sometimes that respect comes later, when people realize you were never trying to impress them, only to live honestly. There is power in being kind without an audience, in loving people who may never love you back, in doing good simply because your spirit compels it. That kind of kindness changes you first, and the world second. It teaches you that your worth is not measured by approval, but by intention. So, practice kindness not as performance, but as principle. Offer it freely and release it fully. Don't weigh it against gratitude or count how many see your light. Be kind because it is who you are, not because you want someone to notice. In that freedom, your kindness becomes truth, and your truth becomes strength. Over-friendliness can invite disrespect because when you blur the line between kindness and over-accommodation, people begin to forget where your boundaries lie. Being friendly is beautiful. It opens hearts, builds connections, and eases tension. But when friendliness turns excessive, when it becomes a mask for fear of rejection or a tool to please everyone, it stops being a virtue and starts becoming a vulnerability. There is a quiet truth in human nature. People often value what they must earn. When you offer too much of yourself too quickly, your time, your trust, your attention, without discernment, others may begin to take it for granted. The world can be quick to assume that those who never say no have no limits at all. Over-friendliness sends a message, sometimes unintentionally, that you will tolerate being overlooked, interrupted, or dismissed. You might believe you're fostering goodwill, but instead you may be teaching others that your comfort can be sacrificed for theirs. Disrespect doesn't always come with cruelty. Sometimes it arrives softly, disguised as expectation. People start assuming you'll always understand, always forgive, always be available. They stop considering your needs because you've trained them with your constant yes, that your needs don't weigh as much as theirs. You become the person everyone turns to, yet the one no one truly sees. Over-friendliness can make you invisible, not because you fade away, but because you make everyone else's presence louder than your own. There is a fine balance between being warm-hearted and being boundaryless. True connection doesn't require overextension. It thrives on mutual respect. When you are too eager to please, you may begin to downplay your own discomfort. You laugh off rudeness, you excuse thoughtlessness, you tell yourself it's kindness to stay quiet. But each time you swallow your truth to maintain harmony, you plant a seed of resentment. And that seed, if ignored, grows into quiet bitterness. Over-friendliness can also blur the perception of self-worth. When your identity revolves around being liked, you begin to measure your value through others' smiles. You mold your words to fit their comfort, dilute your opinions to avoid conflict, and stretch your patience beyond reason. But this kind of friendliness is not kindness. It's surrender. You lose pieces of yourself in the process, and soon you forget what your genuine voice sounds like. People respect what is clear. They trust those who can stand firm even while being gentle. Boundaries do not diminish warmth, they protect it. You can be kind without being naive, open without being exposed, friendly without being forgettable. When you set limits, you teach the world how to treat you, not through anger, but through self-assurance. You remind others that your friendship is a privilege, not a possession. Over-friendliness also distorts relationships. When you're always agreeable, you rob others of honesty. True friendship thrives on authenticity, not constant accommodation. People may enjoy your compliance, but they won't truly know you. To be respected, you must sometimes risk being misunderstood. You must learn to let discomfort exist, to let silence replace forced laughter, and to allow people to adjust to your truth. There is wisdom in restraint. You don't have to greet every soul with open arms or treat every encounter as an invitation to be loved. Your friendliness should reflect self-awareness, not self-erasure. Let your kindness have structure. Let it speak through your calm, your presence, and your quiet confidence. Over-friendliness can open doors, yes, but it can also let in those who were never meant to stay. Choose discernment over desperation. Be kind, but let your kindness be guided by self-respect. When you stop offering yourself endlessly, people begin to listen differently. They start to see your worth, not just your warmth. Boundaries are an act of self-respect, not cruelty. They are the invisible lines that protect your peace, your energy, and your dignity. Too often, people confuse boundaries with selfishness, believing that saying no means shutting others out. But boundaries are not walls. They are doors with locks, meant to open with trust, not by demand. They are a way of telling the world, I value myself enough to protect what matters to me. When you set boundaries, you are not being unkind, you are being honest. You are recognizing that your time, emotions, and well-being are not infinite resources. Without boundaries, you scatter yourself thin, constantly giving, constantly bending, until there is nothing left to give. And when exhaustion becomes your constant state, even your kindness begins to lose its sincerity. Setting boundaries ensures that your giving comes from abundance, not depletion. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will call you selfish when you begin to draw them. They will mistake your self-respect for arrogance because they were comfortable with your silence. But standing up for yourself is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is choosing to be authentic rather than agreeable. It is refusing to let guilt dictate your limits. When you say, "This is too much for me," you are not rejecting others. You are honoring yourself. Boundaries are not about punishment, they are about preservation. They keep resentment from growing in relationships. They allow love to breathe freely, unburdened by hidden frustration or silent exhaustion. When you communicate your limits clearly, you give others the chance to meet you with respect. And those who truly care will adjust, not abandon you. It's only those who benefited from your lack of boundaries who will accuse you of being cruel. There is strength in the quiet act of saying no. It takes courage to protect your peace when the world teaches you that worth is measured by how much you endure. It takes wisdom to realize that constant availability is not love, it's self-neglect. Boundaries teach you to love yourself with the same gentleness you offer others. They remind you that your own heart deserves the same patience, attention, and protection you so easily extend to everyone else. A boundary can be as simple as choosing silence over argument, rest over obligation, distance over drama. It can be telling someone, "I can't talk right now," or deciding that your mental health is more important than maintaining appearances. These acts are not signs of cruelty, they are signs of maturity. They show that you understand your own needs, that you no longer equate self-sacrifice with goodness. Sometimes people will try to guilt you out of your boundaries. They will say you've changed, that you've grown cold, that you don't care the way you used to. But growth often looks like distance to those who were used to your compliance. Let them think what they will. The truth is, boundaries do not push love away. They make room for it to be real. They turn relationships into choices, not obligations. You are not responsible for teaching others how to handle your limits kindly. You are only responsible for holding them firmly. Respecting yourself enough to say no when needed, to step back when drained, or to walk away when disrespected is not cruelty. It's compassion for your own soul. Boundaries are the language of self-worth. They say, "I am enough even when I am not available. I am deserving even when I am resting. I am kind even when I am firm." And once you learn that truth, you stop apologizing for protecting your peace. You stop mistaking endurance for love and silence for grace. You begin to live not as someone desperate to be liked, but as someone deeply at peace with who they are. You can shine without shrinking for others. The light within you is not a threat, it is a truth. Yet so many dim themselves to make others comfortable, to avoid envy, to escape judgment, to seem humble. They tuck away their brilliance, their voice, their potential, believing that modesty means invisibility. But real humility does not ask you to disappear. You were not created to live small just because others fear their own reflection when standing beside your light. When you shrink yourself, you teach the world how to treat you. You show them that your gifts are negotiable, your confidence is conditional, and your spirit can be dimmed to fit their comfort. But you were never meant to edit your soul. Your purpose is not to fit in, it is to stand out in truth, to let your presence remind others of what is possible. You can shine fully and still be kind. You can succeed without arrogance. You can rise without stepping on anyone's peace. Sometimes we hide our light out of love. We tell ourselves we're protecting others from feeling small. But the truth is, your shine does not create anyone else's shadow. Their insecurity does. The sun does not apologize for the warmth it gives. It simply shines because that's its nature. In the same way, your growth, your confidence, your excellence are not insults. They are invitations. When you shine unapologetically, you give others permission to do the same. There will always be people who misunderstand your confidence. They'll call it pride when it's really clarity, arrogance when it's simply self-belief. They'll ask you to tone yourself down because your strength reminds them of their own hesitation. But your job is not to make others comfortable at the cost of your becoming. You owe yourself the freedom to be as radiant as you truly are. Shrinking for others might keep you liked, but it will never keep you fulfilled. Your shine has purpose. It is not for decoration, it is for direction. It lights the way for those still finding their path. When you allow yourself to stand tall, to speak, to create, to dream, you show others what courage looks like in motion. And courage is contagious. Each time you choose visibility over fear, authenticity over approval, you tell the world that it's safe to be whole. There is a difference between arrogance and presence. Arrogance demands attention. Presence commands it naturally. You don't need to prove your worth by speaking louder or showing more. You simply need to be. When you stand in your truth without apology, you radiate something far deeper than charm or charisma. You radiate peace. People may not always praise it, but they will always feel it. Shining doesn't mean you must constantly perform. It doesn't mean you have to be loud or perfect. Sometimes your light is in your calm. Sometimes it's in the way you hold your boundaries, or the way you refuse to let bitterness take root in your heart. To shine means to exist fully, to embrace your talents, your kindness, your wisdom, without shrinking to please those who have not yet found their own glow. You can love people and still refuse to lower your brightness for them. Compassion does not require self-erasure. The best way to honor others is not by dimming your light, but by letting it show them that they can shine too. True connection is never built on shrinking. It is built on mutual expansion, on the shared understanding that there is room enough for all of us to glow. So lift your head, speak your truth, share your brilliance without fear that it will offend. You can be gentle and still powerful, humble and still radiant, kind and still unstoppable. The world needs your light exactly as it is, unfiltered, unapologetic, and whole. Value sincerity over popularity because truth lasts longer than applause. Popularity is a breeze. It comes with the season, changes with the crowd, and fades when the noise shifts. Sincerity, though quiet, endures. It is the voice that remains steady when trends fall silent. It is not built on performance, but on principle, not on charm, but on character. The world will always tempt you to be liked, to say what pleases, to become what sells. But the cost of constant approval is authenticity, and once lost, it is not easily reclaimed. Popularity asks, "Who will love me if I say this?" Sincerity asks, "Who am I if I don't?" The difference lies in courage. Popularity is hungry. It feeds on validation, on being seen, on being chosen. But sincerity stands still. It does not chase the spotlight, yet it shines with its own kind of integrity. It may not gather the loudest crowd, but it gathers the right ones, the people who value truth over entertainment, who stay when others drift away. To live sincerely is to walk a slower road. It requires saying things that might make others uncomfortable. It means choosing honesty over convenience, depth over display. The sincere person does not decorate their truth to win affection. They do not dilute their convictions for comfort. They speak with intention, act with conscience, and let their work, not their words, define them. And though this path may isolate you at times, it keeps your spirit intact. Popularity can be intoxicating. It feels like love. It looks like success. But it often demands pieces of yourself in return. It wants you to smile even when you're tired, to agree even when you disagree, to perform even when your heart is weary. You begin to measure your worth in numbers, likes, praises, faces in a crowd, and forget that being known by many is not the same as being understood by few. Sincerity, on the other hand, asks for no audience. It's a private agreement between your values and your actions. When you choose sincerity, you begin to attract depth. The conversations change. The people around you begin to reflect truth back to you. You find peace in stillness because you're no longer running to please. You stop chasing perception and start living with purpose. And that shift, though quiet, is powerful. It gives you roots, not wings made of paper. It anchors you in something real. The world has enough performers. It needs more people who mean what they say. It needs individuals who are brave enough to be honest, even when honesty costs them applause. Popularity may open doors, but sincerity builds foundations. The popular voice fades with fashion, but the sincere one leaves echoes that outlast the noise. It's tempting to blend in, to water down your truth just to stay liked. But remember, those who like the version of you that pleases them will disappear when you begin to grow. Those who love the version of you that's real will stay, even when your truth is inconvenient. And isn't that what truly matters? Sincerity doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it's saying, "I don't know," when pretending would be easier. Sometimes it's admitting fault or walking away from something that looks good but feels wrong. It's the quiet integrity of doing the right thing when no one is watching. It's the decision to stay true even when falsehoods seem to win faster. Popularity asks you to perform. Sincerity invites you to be. And in the end, being real will always outlast being adored. Because applause fades, but peace remains. The world may forget your name, but it will never forget the truth you stood for. Choose sincerity. It might not make you famous, but it will make you free. Love yourself enough to say no, because every time you say yes to something that drains you, you say no to your own peace. Too many people confuse love with endless giving, as if self-sacrifice is the highest form of kindness. But love that excludes yourself isn't love, it's neglect dressed in virtue. Saying no is not rejection of others, it is acceptance of your own worth. It is a declaration that your time, energy, and well-being are not open for constant compromise. There is power in that small word, no. It may sound simple, but for many it is the hardest word to speak. We fear it will make us appear selfish, cold, or unkind. We fear that people will stop loving us if we stop accommodating them. But those who withdraw their affection because you set boundaries never offered real love to begin with. True love respects limits. Manipulation resents them. When you learn to say no without guilt, you begin to separate those who value your presence from those who only value your compliance. Saying no is not about closing your heart. It's about protecting it. It's the quiet act of self-respect that reminds you that your needs are as sacred as anyone else's. The world will always ask for more time, more effort, more attention. And if you keep giving without pause, you'll eventually give away pieces of yourself. You'll find your joy replaced by exhaustion, your compassion replaced by resentment. But when you love yourself enough to say no, you preserve the parts of you that make your yes meaningful. Self-love is not indulgence, it is balance. It is knowing that rest is as valuable as work, solitude as nourishing as company, silence as healing as conversation. Saying no creates space for you to breathe, to listen to your own thoughts, to remember who you are beneath all the demands. It allows you to fill your own cup before pouring into others. Because love given from emptiness is not generosity, it's survival. And survival is not what you were made for. Many people will misunderstand your no. They'll call you distant, difficult, or changed. Let them. Growth always unsettles those who benefit from your unavailability. You cannot control how others interpret your boundaries, but you can control how much of yourself you give away trying to please them. Saying no does not make you cruel. It makes you conscious. It shows that you've learned the difference between service and servitude, between caring and carrying too much. There is a quiet kind of strength in the person who can decline gracefully, who can say, "Not today," and still hold love in their voice, who can refuse without resentment because they know their peace is not up for negotiation. That strength comes from deep within, a place that understands that you cannot heal, grow, or thrive if you are constantly available to everything and everyone but yourself. To love yourself enough to say no is to trust that you are enough even when you disappoint others. It's believing that your value doesn't depend on how much you do for someone, but on who you are when you stand still. It's knowing that saying no does not make you less kind. It makes your kindness more honest, more intentional, more sustainable. Every no you speak in truth is a yes to something greater, a yes to rest, to clarity, to freedom, a yes to the quiet moments where you can simply exist without performing, a yes to the life that feels right, not just looks right. So love yourself enough to say no without apology, without fear. The world will adjust, and those meant to walk beside you will understand that your no is not rejection, but reverence for your peace, your purpose, and your self-respect. In the end, the message is simple yet powerful. Stop bending yourself to be accepted. Kindness should not cost your peace. Friendliness should not erase your boundaries, and love should not silence your truth. You were not made to please the world. You were made to live fully within it. Stand firm in who you are. Let your light shine without apology, your heart stay open without surrender, and your voice speak with sincerity, not for approval, but for authenticity. True strength is quiet, grounded in self-respect. Love yourself enough to live with that grace, and let the world adjust to your truth.